Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. I feel like I haven't been here in a while. And so I'm in an office and they have music on, and the music is quite loud. So if you hear it, it's definitely not to me. But I'll give it 5 minutes. Let's see. Well, not 5 minutes. I'll give it 2 minutes. It is Memorial Day, and let's see if many people arrive. I'm starting to see them all now, which is good. And then we'll kind of get started. Today's not going to be long. I really would like to have big updates for you. I don't have those. But hey, Brian. But, yep. Sometimes really good news is just steady as she goes, which is really quite cool. And also we have a little bit of show and tell, which is fun. Not personal show and tell, like I'm not showing you anything that we have, but I will be able to show you what other people are doing. And I think from that point of view, you'll say, oh, that sounds familiar to me. So we'll give it 1 more minute. And this is espresso because I need to stay awake, and that's okay. All right, let's just jump into it. So I haven't been on in I think maybe like a month. I know I rescheduled last time for this time because I'm waiting on big updates. So to give you exactly where we are, so when we filed our provisional patent in, what was that, November, right? November of 2023, we had 1 year to file the non-provisional. Now the non-provisional we filed right away in January 2024, so 2 months later. And from the estimated date from when the provisional is filed to when the USPTO, US Patent Office Organization, right, gets back to you with what is granted, what is denied, what your next steps are, which by the way, I just want to touch on that. A patent is, we have many, many claims. In fact, as you read it, there's 15,000 words of all specifications, claims, abstract, et cetera, et cetera. So when a patent office gets to your particular provisional, and in this case, non-provisional, they don't look at it as black and white, right? Like, oh, we can't grant everything, therefore we grant nothing, right? So they'll take a look at it and say, okay, claim 1 and 2 is novel, it's unique, it is patentable, great. Claim 3 and 4, like we already have the wheel, you're not going to get the patent to the wheel. Claim 5, we already have fire, you're not going to get the patent to fire. Claim 6, 7, and 8, oh, this is novel. Okay, so at the end of the day, the patent office says, okay, out of your 12 claims, we're able to grant you 7 of them. 7 of them are yours, these are yours, which then becomes a monetizable asset because now you effectively have the patent. You own those things, which is really, especially for, well, not even especially, but uniquely for what we have, is quite valuable. So that's cool. When that provisional was filed, the estimated date in terms of more likely than not is 18 months. 18 months, you'll finally hear back from them, which is May 2025. It's now May 2025, which is really cool because you take a look at this and maybe everyone won't agree with me. It feels like a blink of an eye. It feels like yesterday. And there might be a lot of people that are like, well, Ant, I'm glad it feels like that for you, but for us, it feels like a million, bazillion years. In which case, I think if we average that out, it might come out to 18 months. So, let's agree to be friends on this one. But we don't have that yet, and that's not any failure of ours. It's the patent office. It's like the US government, right? Like, what do you want? So I did reach out to our patent attorneys, I think maybe a month ago. I know I shared it with everyone. They gave us an update. We are in the pipeline. Everything is going fine. So then it's just waiting. In that time frame, we partnered with Liquidex. They're like the 7th largest patent firm, and you can look them up. It's like liquidex.com or something, or go to Google, type in Liquidex, and you'll get where you need to go. And what's great about that is because they take most of the risk. Now, they're a very, very big firm. They have all of these resources, all of these people, all of these partnerships, blah, 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 blah. The deal we made with them was $3,500 a month and 18% on the back end. So $3,500 a month, if you break it down into like weekly, it comes out to what, like $700 a week. And that is not a lot of money when you are consulting an entire firm, right? Like they have all their own experts in all of their own departments, blah, 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 blah. So it is not only reasonable, but it is true to say that the only way this partnership becomes profitable for Liquidex is if they actually consummate a partnership, consummate a deal. Because the 3,500 that they're making is like pennies, like it's what is it to them? They're a giant firm. Which means that their partnership of us is quite foretelling, right? Like these are the guys that do a ton of different deals and they see ours and say, wow, we could get 18% on the back end. Sure, we have to invest our time in the front end, but we think we could do it. In which case, I believe I shared that with everyone, where it actually says in black and white, well, we can't guarantee and everything. We're making this deal because we firmly believe that we're going to be able to consummate a bigger deal, which is good, duh. Now with this patent, it really is black and white, because what we've effectively patented and effectively what we claimed was a market that doesn't exist. At the time, remember, November 2023 is when the provisional was granted. Now you also have to take it a little bit step further back than that, because I didn't wake up one day and say bing, and then all of a sudden a provisional was granted. That idea had to be formed in such a way that is constantly A/B tested, constantly thought through to say, oh my God, we should get a patent attorney, then working with the patent attorney, then going through the questionnaires, then blah, 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 blah. So effectively, really like August 2023 was when this became like a thing in my head. And I mean all of us, right? Like I represent all of us. But it's a thing and to that point, this would never be a thought in my head if we didn't have the prior years of like, these are things that work, this is the criticism, this is like, it is a we thing. So August 2023. So then we got the provisional as of November 2023. And the cool part about that is when they were doing it, Barry Chopin is his name, of Patent 360 or 360 Patent, something like that. And you would say, Ant, shouldn't you know this? If I can't even tell you how many thousands of little details, like if I should have known, right? So I know it's something like that. And if I want to look it up, I can. But anyway, when they did the search, because you have to search through the patent libraries, and there's like a couple different searches, they had said, hey, listen, we would like to do a second search. And I'm like, oh, great, like, let me spend more money. And I didn't say that out loud, but what I realized was what I'm trying to lay claim to is so large that the last thing you want is that it goes through the whole patent thing and they're like, oh, it's denied because there's all these things that existed. You should have known this. We don't want to do that. There are certain people you don't look for the cheap ones, doctors, lawyers, and patent attorneys, I would think, right? Whatever. Anyway, so we spent the extra money to do a second review of all the libraries and all of the non-unique whatever, right? After that was all said and done, the report came out and everything was green lit, except it was like, there was one, this might not be novel enough. Our claims might be too broad. In which case, the patent attorney, they did it for specific reasons. Let's just get our flag planted in the ground. We got the provisional, and then we elaborated on the non-provisional. Great. But in between the two times, we did the search to know what we had to elaborate on and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So the provisional patent, I think, was like 3,500 words. The non-provisional patent was like 13 to 15,000 words. So it was very, very, very elaborated. Okay, great. Now, in that search, there was nothing that came close to what we were doing. Then in my searches after the fact, because I have the access to search for a lot of things that other people can't search for, I found that the most complementary thing that even came close to what we were looking to patent was by Amazon. They went ahead and got their provisional patent November 20th, 2023. We got ours November 16th, 2023. The second closest thing was Microsoft, which got theirs January 11th, maybe, 2024. Meaning the largest companies in the world that had even an iota, even anything of what we were doing and looking to kind of do something of the similar thing, did it after us, which is really quite cool. And that's, really, really very, very cool. So anyway, so that goes on. So now we're in a position that we're waiting for this, and I'm stepping forward for a little bit, that we're waiting for this final claim or denial or whatever from the patent office, and at that point it becomes quite monetizable. Okay. At the same time that's happening, Liquidex, which we're already in our first month and our second month invoices due as of Wednesday, has already completed our data sheet, which is kind of like a pitch deck, but done professionally, and it's kind of like, not a whole, it's like a 3-page thing, right? Like, these are the highlights, this is what they're doing. And it's really quite good. I worked with them a little bit on it. I didn't want to, hey, listen, why am I paying you if I'm gonna do the whole thing? But at the same time, you have to put a little pride aside and say it's better to have it done properly than not done at all. So I can tell you the first version was quite not good. The second version was much, much better. Now, because they got that completed, their next step is now organizing and aggregating their resource team to identify which partnerships they have and where would this fit in. And that's been going on. So I have a call with them sometime this week, probably Wednesday, I would say. Usually these calls are always done on the invoice date, right? So probably by Wednesday, in which case they're going to update me on, okay, we have X amount of partners we've done business with, we have X amount of, endpoints that we think this would do quite well at, and these are going to be our next steps in identifying and reaching out to each one of these individual parties and like bing, 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 which is good. Now, the risk that we're running is that the patent isn't fully granted yet. But I said, I'm not waiting for it to be fully granted. I believe with a high degree of certainty, we're going to get at least most of the claims, therefore get your ducks in a row so that when it is granted, the people that are like, hey, oh my goodness, if this was granted, we would pay X amount for it, you have them ready, and let's just close on the biggest one at that point. Like, I'm not in the business of waiting around. I have a community that thinks that like the last 18 months felt like 100 million years, right? So they're doing that. And that's the risk to us, because at the end of the day, the patent office could say, you have Bumkus, and then it's not like we get a refund from Liquidex. They're like, hey, buddy, you got Bumkus. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But they've also have stated that should you get like these claims granted, you're looking at like $1 billion assets. And I'm like, stop being so conservative, right? Because the reality is the core claim that we have is an AI marketplace that was never even conceived. The core claim is user plus AI companion plus closed-end marketplace to facilitate commerce. The idea being that there would be some functionable way that AI can be a fly on the wall for your life, aggregate all of your data, and put it in certain buckets so that it can make proper decision-making and predictions and recommendations and suggestions that you would then go ahead and accept, in which case that would benefit the closed-end marketplace because it would source from those individual marketers, which means that marketplace would be the one monetizing AI because they'd be paying a subscription to be into that, and everyone's happy, everyone's kumbaya. That was the only way that I foresaw AI being monetizable at all, because in lieu of having some type of marketplace that actually like makes money on this stuff, well, then it's simply just a ubiquitous, like, okay, my AI could, be a receptionist for you. Okay, great, that's cool until every AI could be a receptionist, then it becomes a calculator. I bet you the first people that invented the calculator charged a lot of money for it. And then when everyone had a calculator, it was like nothing was worth anything. Same thing with the internet. The internet was really, really valuable until it was able to just be given to free for everyone. Now you have like homeless people with an iPhone because they could sit in Starbucks with the Wi-Fi, right? So that's what technology does. Therefore, there is no long-term path where AI makes money that is not a marketplace, because AI is just a technology. It's just a super fancy calculator, and it will become ubiquitous at some point. And that really wasn't even the core claim of our patent. The core claim of our patent was only in being able to create this marketplace do you have access to the data of an individual that would allow you to create the relationship between embodied tech like robots and an individual, where the individual and the embodied tech would know each other immediately. And not know each other, but the robot would know the person, because it would have some type of, what's the word? IFD chip or IFT, I don't know. For the purposes of an analogy, like imagine if you had a chip planted into you and all AI was able to read it, and that chip was a personal identifier where the AI knew who you were, right? The place that you would eventually house TED, which is going to be a hardware of some type until we come up with chips being in arms and people being comfortable with it, would be in such a way that it listens to you like a fly on the wall. It travels with you. And that would be the personal identifier that would allow the embodied tech to recognize who you are, because it would be able to bing that, and this thing would be the safekeeper of your technology. There'd be a marketplace built in the back that would source from those marketers, in which case those marketers would be paying for the whole entire thing, which means those marketers would never have to pay for marketing ever again. They'd never have to pay for anything. They would essentially just make sales, because sales would be automated for them to the perfect person at the perfect time at the exact part. There you go. That was what we patented in November 2023. You may be hearing me right now and say, oh my God, that's a great idea. Well, duh, right? Like, I thought it was a great idea back then. It's just that I'm like psycho enough that I saw it. And it's quite... So I'm going to show you some things. And before I do that, here is also the process, right? So when you patent something, your patent doesn't become published for the first 18 months. For the first 18 months, nobody even knows what you did. So for instance, our provisional isn't public. Like, nobody could see what it is for the first 18 months. Maybe, I know by by June 16th it would be, but that means it's also not searchable, which also means that anybody looking to patent the idea I just shared with you would say, oh, well, no one's patented that before. Well, we did, but they don't know it, because those 18 months for provisional aren't published. So also the risk that you take on is that you could be essentially patenting something and think it wasn't patent, but it is patent, and you don't know it until the claims office actually gets back to you. So now you got to peel that back like an onion and try to do a little math on that. Okay, great. So for the idea that we had at the time that we had it, was there any conversation anywhere about a marketplace? No, but that's also like, all right, Ant, like that doesn't prove anything. The conversation was around, oh my God, AI, look what this thing is. Let's keep investing into it and roll it out, roll it out, roll it out. I would submit to you that the argument was much more around how to build it, and then the presumption that when we build it, we'll figure out how to monetize it, and then it will come. Kind of like Facebook, like let's just build this thing and then we'll figure out how to make money on the back end. When we did our patent search, there was nothing even close. And then when we did our non-provisional, it was 13,000 words of like specifics, right? From like holographic representations of TED, complete marketplace build out, how the marketplace interacted, that exact equation, 4 levels of personality identifiers and how that built into an intent-based algorithm scoring system, the actionable percentage one must hit over a rolling 60-day period and micro niches, the individual buckets that were sent up to the TED blockchain by behavior, not identity, which equaled the reinforcement mechanism. Like, these are things that I think you could, like someone out there can very intelligently make an argument to me like, hey, Ant, you're not the smartest person in the world. And for you to have thought about this, don't you think the companies that are actually building it would have had some insight to like, hey, we're building it, like how are we gonna make money on this? And somebody could have came up with this. I would argue it, but I would eventually concede because I don't think I'm the smartest person. I think that there's 3 ways to make money in the world, to quote Margin Call, the movie, really great movie. Either be the smartest, cheat, or be first. Now, we don't cheat, and that's quoting them too. I just don't cheat. It's not something I'm ever gonna do. It's funny because I'm really just quoting them now. And although we like to think we're the smartest, it's certainly easier to just be first. So for this particular calculation, if you say we're not the smartest, great. If you say we weren't the first, great. But you have to effectively say bolt simultaneously for the fear of somebody patenting this idea before you to actually hold weight. Because if we're not the smartest, great, but if we did it before someone, well, we won. Or if we are the smartest, but someone did it before us, then we lose, right? So you have to tell me that you believe somebody's smarter and quicker. In which case that argument still might hold. But then when you take the layers behind it, like you peel back the onion and say, okay, your core idea is there, but do you think somebody else thought of taking individual data and stripping it of identity and coding it by behavior and sending it up to a blockchain where it algorithmizes itself and then reinforces against all the behavior of the entire, like these are things that not only do I think we uniquely thought of, but the entire system is based on zero profit, right? There is no company out there that I think altruistically would say, hey, listen, it would be like the best way to do this would be to strip the identity off the data, send it up to a big kind of like house like the world's behavior, and then use that to reinforce, because they would say, well, how's that being paid for? In which case I would essentially submit to you that I think that their equation, user plus AI companion plus closed-end marketplace to facilitate commerce, that closed-end marketplace would have something about it that the data is owned by the particular company. Like someone's owning the data somewhere. In our system, there is no data ownership anywhere that exists. The person owns the data, which allows it to become that TED card that allows it to interact with the embodied tech on the fairness of the person. Now you might say, well, Ant, that's a bit of a nuance to like a regular person. Like if somebody, like let's say that you get what you X for, they get what they X for, now it's like go ahead and compete with them. How would you do that? And I think first I think it would be far more beneficial to the individual, like the company, to just buy our patent, because effectively we can then go to, say, a law firm or someone and say, hey, listen, let's just do a marketing campaign and put us against them, and that campaign will effectively be, I don't want to say any company's names because I know I'm watched by a lot of people and I don't want to be like sued for defamation or something. Company ABC houses your data, which means that you are essentially not owned, or you're essentially owned, and at some point when they don't need you anymore, they'll toss you out and your data will be your persona. And Company B, which is us, we don't own it, and these are the differences, and this is how it happens. So wouldn't you rather this than that? And you would say, well, Ant, Company ABC might have a full, following or whatever. Sure, great. We don't really care. It would be, guys, do you really want us to continue pounding you every single day and we'll eventually get big money people? Or do you want to just like buy this out and whatever? So I think that's like quite literally the worst case scenario. And even in the worst case scenario, there's a very, very viable path. And by worst case scenario, I mean like, I really don't even think that's even close to happening. Because again, that's under the presumption that someone's smarter and quicker and thought about all the ancillary things like I just described to you. And they would have had to have done it within that 18-month period prior. So 18 months prior to November 2023 is what? So that's 11/23, so 3/22. So you're looking at March 2022. People were still debating whether to wear a mask or not. I don't think anyone during that time was like, oh my God, let me think about an AI marketplace. Like, let's remember BLM, Me Too, masks, like Trump, like Biden. Like, I don't think there was a zeitgeist around anything of what we came up with. So that's that. So I want to go ahead and share screen. I'm going to, there's a 1-minute video of Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. And then there's a product release that I want to just read to you. And I think what you're going to find is that what we've patented, and again, remember, these companies cannot see what we effectively did for the 18 months. We're in that period where they can't just look it up. But I think what you're going to see is they're just now coming out with product. And of course they thought about it, right? So like they've probably been thinking about it for like a year, year and a half, whatever. But they're just now coming out with product that I think you would say, well, Ant, that kind of looks exactly what you just spoke of. And if you come away with that conclusion, then you would say, okay, we're really in a very good spot. If you don't come away with that conclusion, you would say, oh, well, I hope we have something, right? So let me see. Okay, I'll do share screen. We'll do this, and then we'll kind of just get to our days, right? All right. So I think everyone could see this. This is my Twitter. I already have. Question about this. I don't know what the hell the thing is. Okay. So let's listen to this real quickly.
Model with 1 trillion tokens of context that you put a very tiny reasoning model with 1 trillion tokens of context that you put your whole life into. The model never retrains, the weights never customized, but that thing can reason across your whole context and do it efficiently. And every conversation you've ever had in your life, every book you've ever read, every email you've ever read, everything you've ever looked at is in there, plus connected to all your data from other sources. And your life just keeps appending to the context, and your company just does the same thing for all your company's data. We can't get there today, but I think of kind of like anything else as a compromise off that Platonic ideal, and that is how I would eventually, I hope we do customization.
One last.
Yeah, I would say user plus AI companion would actually equal exactly that. And let me just stop share so I could see face real quick. One might say, well, Auntie's talking about emails, this, that, and the third. You're talking about user in this fly on the wall type of thing, and fly on the wall doesn't know emails. This is kind of the cool part. Yeah, I represent it as that because that was how I thought of it. But the actual formula is user plus AI companion. So what Sam is talking about is essentially an AI companion. And I say essentially just as a simple definition to you, because it's exactly an AI companion. Anything that's AI related that is with you through your entire life, well, what would be the next word? Is that your AI friend? Is that your AI ad hoc? Is that your AI stranger? Or is that your AI companion, right? And the user that he's referring to is a person and all of their everything about them. Well, let me ask you something. If I asked you for everything about you, would you say that's you? And if you have an AI companion that you're using, then everything about you would be the user. So exactly what that's him like a week ago, right? So I want to show one more thing. Here we go. And then this was just released May 22nd. It's the 26th. So this is from the Wall Street Journal, Ben Goskin. So this is what the prototype looks like. The product will be capable of fully aware of a user's surroundings and life, will be unobtrusive, able to rest in one's pocket or on one's desk, and will be a third core device a person would put on a desk after a MacBook Pro and an iPhone. The journal earlier reported that the device won't be a phone, and that Ive and Altman's intent, Ive, that's the person that left Apple to join OpenAI and Sam, intent is to help wean users from screens. Altman said that the device isn't a pair of glasses and that I've been skeptical about building something to wear on the body. And this is what the prototype would look like. So this is something that's going to, where did it say? Be capable of being fully aware of a user's surroundings. Fully capable of a user's surroundings. I think that's, fly on the wall. Will be unintrusive, fly on the wall, and rest in one's pocket. So when we were defining, and it says it in the patents, it would be a hardware device, maybe one's phone in the beginning. It doesn't say it's going to be definitely someone's phone. It says in a hardware device, and we, let's just say in someone's phone to begin with. There is nothing about what OpenAI is doing right now that isn't exactly our patent. Actually, let me see something real quick. Because there is something I wanted to show you. Stay with me. Where the? Hold on, stay with me. I'm just looking for one thing in my text messages. Okay. All right, let me do share screen one more time. So I sent this to our patent person, and he goes, we will have a few things to discuss next week for sure. Wow. And what you're getting at is, this is OpenAI. This is the leader of AI. They're ChatGPT. Their company's worth close to 300 billion. Like they lead all of this. So what is verifiably true, this is fact, they are number one, and they own AI in terms of at scale. Okay. Fact, I just showed you what they're introducing. Okay. Fact, that's exactly what our patent says. The only question is, did they somehow patent this within 18 months prior of what we patented, and does that patent absolutely overlay with ours? Because if it doesn't, then the balance is, okay, well, we have 12 claims and we only got 2 of them. I mean, that's a really, really bad scenario. Like, there's no expectation that happens, but let's say it does. Well, those 2, now that we can see verifiably that their output is exactly what it is, would be valuable to them or to someone else. Or at the very least, it's like, well, if you're that spot on, then these are things that maybe they even think about, right? So, in total recap, everything is going quite well. Yeah, I'm gonna have to block it out when it gets to the YouTube. Everything is going quite well. It's just a matter of now we're playing a waiting game. When the patent office gets back to us or LiquidDex gets back to us and says, hey, listen, we have these offers pending, or we have someone that's like, hey, listen, we're willing to take that chance if we could buy it for this right now. But once the patent office gets back and says, and God forbid, I'm serious, hey, listen, we just granted your entire patent, which again is the presumption. But should that happen, you're talking about something that's easily worth like $1 billion would be I don't even like saying this out loud. $1 billion would be, it would be really bad. It'd be like, wow, you only took $1 billion for that. That's where we would be. So that's just kind of where we are. So again, I think I hopefully did a good job in just relaying to you, our idea was never crazy. And not that anyone ever said we were crazy, right? But there also is, okay, he doesn't sound crazy, but is he gonna be right? And what we can now see, 100% of what we patented is the prototype and product that is the next latest and greatest thing that's being rolled out. And the one thing that you don't see in that prototype is anywhere where it says, we're going to make money on this because a marketplace is going to be on the back end and that's how we're going to get the suggestions. You think they're going to be able to just give this to you for free and not lose money on it? What they're going to do, where can we see the latest demo? The demo is what I just showed you. There is no demo of TED that exists. What we have for TED right now is basically, well, not basically, but just the patent. We went ahead and said, all right, let's stop developing a prototype of ours because it makes no sense. Our winning and losing is based on the patent at the moment. So let's stop throwing money at the whatever. No, Brian, I think you're right, 50 billion. What's the word I'm looking for? On the unambiguous fact is that our patent is exactly what is coming out. The only variable is, did we come up with it first? And how much of it did we come up with? Or how much did we not come up with it? Because at that point, when we get the claims that we have back, then it actually is an appraisal asset. In which case a firm could say, this is based on the market worth $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion. In which case, then it just goes to companies, and this is what LiquidDex does. They have an in-house appraisal, in which case they're gonna do the work and say, okay, this thing is worth like 17 billion, what would you take for it? Because remember, we made sure that they only get paid any real money on the back end. They get 18%. So when you think about a big company that's like, oh my God, we have $1 billion asset, do you think they're going to take low dollar? No, they're gonna say, we're getting 18% of whatever comes out of this, like, let's do it. So I can unambiguously say the future is quite bright, but it does require patience. And I guess the cool part is I don't have to offer many updates because there isn't many updates to offer. It's just a waiting game. Now in my personal life, I'm filing lawsuits and all of that other stuff. So I guess I found some time to do it because business is being taken care of. But that is no reflection of like taking my eye off the ball or like reprioritizing my day to day. It's in the experts' hands. It's in the professionals' hands. That's where it is. So I'm very, very optimistic. And what I can say is there's many people that would say, well, Ant, what do I own? What this, what that, what that? And I would say that over the last year, I've been really, really very poor with that, right? No one has like exact account statements. The best way to ever, for anyone to ever know is either ask me, in which case I still kind of drag feet with that because I'll say something to the effect of like, everything's accounted for. Do you need to know the number right now, right? And everyone's always been really nice to me, be like, oh no, I don't need to know it exactly. But everything's accounted for. Every dollar that's come in's gone through our merchant accounts, whether it's PayPal, Stripe, Square. So there is no, like Eve, for instance, and I'm only saying that because she's the last one that said anything. If Eve said, hey, Aunt, what do I own? I'll be like, okay, well, if you're going to force me to do this for you, which Eve knows I love her, so of the women that can force me to do things, Eve is certainly one of them. And I would say, okay, fine, just give me like 3 days. And I would go through every account and say, okay, you own this much. This is X percentage of whatever the final number is. This is what you own. In which case she would say, well, if you got $1 billion, that would be 220 times my investment. I would say, yeah. I mean, don't forget the 18% we got to take off for, Liquidex. And she'd be like, okay, still, that's like, I don't know, 190 times. And I would say, yeah. And she'd be like, okay, cool. So there is a certain, and I unapologetically say this, and I think I've been very straight with this for a very, very long time. My only concern is the finish line. I've gone through life long enough to know that I can hold hands and I don't want to say baby, right? Like that's not the right word, but let's use that since I can't think of another word. I could baby everyone and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm really, really sorry. Let me go look this up for you. The amount of time that would take, especially setting that precedent, would ensure that the time dedicated and needed to get over the finish line would either be disqualified, like we wouldn't get it, or it just wouldn't happen because we didn't exercise the time that was needed. So it's always been my plan that, and again, this is a terrible analogy of like to make an omelet, you have to break eggs, because I don't ever want to, like, I don't break anyone, right? But if I upset some people by being quasi unorganized or quasi like, where's my account statements, I'm okay with that. Because I know that no matter what, if someone ever said, Anthony, like, I need to know, I've never not met that, right? So everyone has that. Brian, you're hilarious. But to the point of, do I believe that once we cross that finish line and I give everyone 200 times their money, do I think they're gonna say, yeah, and this is great, but like, no, I don't. I think they're gonna be like, and you know what, like, childbearing was easier than this, but I like you more than I like my kid. And I'll say, please don't say that, but I get it, because your kid's a knucklehead. And that's just kind of where we're at. So again, don't hate me. And I say that facetiously. I don't think anyone hates me except for one person. And I don't even think she hates me. I think she's just not gonna say it, not gonna say it. But I only have one goal. And that goal is something that everyone shares. So it might not be done with the same white gloves that you'd be used to, but I also think if I'm going to return everyone 200 times their money, I think people will say, okay, like, thanks, right? So that's that. Happy Memorial Day. I will clean this up and hopefully get it out by tomorrow. I have other work to do today, but I love everyone, and I really, really do, and I'm here. No one hates you, but I hope you can answer I always answer your email, Eve. Unless you sent me a new one that I didn't see, but like I always do. And maybe if you start sending emails with your picture on it, because for anyone that knows Eve, she is a total fox, and love, love, love her. But yeah, if you send me one now, I'll obviously take a look at it. Okay, love everyone. Happy Memorial Day. Bye.